Hello and welcome to Maximum Disc, a show where I celebrate physical media and talk about films that I own on Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. I'm James Adamson, I'm a co-host on the Double Reel Film Podcast. If you like this chat about physical media, please do check out Double Reel. It's a magazine-style podcast made by people who love films as much as you do. We talk about various movies and topics, and we think any episode you tune into or download, you'll come away with some great recommendations of things to watch instead of relying on the algorithm. So that's the podcast, that's the sales pitch for that. This is physical media. Why does that matter? Basically, I think it matters because if you care about a film, you need to own it. You can't rely on the streamers to make it available. If they do, it's not necessarily the full, uncut, director's cut version of the film that really makes it work. And it's certainly not going to look and sound its best on a compressed internet file. So the films that really count are the ones you want to own on disc, in a case, on a shelf. If you're that kind of person, then this show is for you. Each episode, I talk about a film that I own. Blu-ray or 4K Blu-ray, is what I focus. I've obviously got an old DVD collection. I don't really get going to those. People who tune into these things tend to want to know what the audio and video quality is like. So I go into that. There are people who do that in a more technical way than I do, but I try and give you a feel for how it looks and how it sounds, whether it really pops off the screen for you and shows off your home cinema system. I like to also talk about how the film sort of came to matter to me, how I watched it, why I love it, why I want to own it. And at the end, I kind of round it up, talk about whether I think it's an essential purchase and hopefully help for you to make your own mind up about whether, you need to go and buy this film. So today we're going to be talking about Diva on Blu-ray. That's a French film from 1981. It's directed and co-written by Jean-Jacques Beneix, based on a novel by Delacorte, which I think is a bit of a pen name. Beneix was mainly active in the 80s and 90s and regarded as a key part of the French cinema du look movement of that period. As well as Diva, he's famous for Betty Blue, the poster of which adorned many a wall back in the day. The other credited writer was a gentleman by the name of Jean Van Hamme, who I don't really know outside of this film. The cast is made up of people you might recognise if you've seen other French films of that era. Frédéric André, Richard Boehringer, Roland Bertin, Gérard Darmon, Anne Lou. Dominique Pignon will be more recognisable, perhaps from things like Alien Resurrection, Amélie, City of Lost Children and Delicatessen. It also features an American opera singer called Wilhelmina Fernandez in a rare acting role as the classical opera diva of the title. Cinematography was by Philippe Rousselot, who's well known in French film and also developed an international reputation, working on films such as Stephen Frears' Dangerous Liaisons, Philip Kaufman's Henry and June, Neil Jordan's Interview with a Vampire, and a bit of a lost gem these days, John Boorman's The Emerald Forest. The sound is credited to Louis Gimel, Jean-Pierre Lelon, Gina Pignier, Jean-Pierre Roux, who also worked on Once Upon a Time in America, which we discussed recently, and Claude Villon. The score is by Vladimir Kosmar, which combines modern electric music for guitar and synth with symphonic orchestra compositions, a lot of piano, and also features Fernandez's singing of opera classics, weaving in some older classical composers' compositions along the way, which is quite a heady mix. In terms of awards and nomination, this did get some awards attention, but was affected perhaps by the fact that a brand new style of cinema took a few people by surprise. Its initial critical reaction in France wasn't great. It was hostile, in fact. But it quickly got some adherents and admirers. It was nominated at the BAFTAs for Best Foreign Language Film, but didn't win. It was nominated at the French Oscars, known as the Césars, for 5 awards, winning 4. Best Debut Film for Beneix, Cinematography, Score and Sound. Apart from that, just a few nominations and wins at the various festivals and critic societies, although it found great success in America and then its reputation grew and grew. It's now regarded as a classic internationally and in Beneix's native France. So let's give you a quick summary of what the film is about. Jules, the central character, is a mailman who does his deliveries on a little moped through the streets of Paris. He's a bit shy and quiet. He's not exactly a master of the universe. He is, however, a huge opera fan and a real devotee of a beautiful American opera singer called Cynthia Hawkins, who is in town to perform some opera arias on stage. Now, she refuses point blank to make any recordings of her performances. She doesn't think that's the right way to hear her. You should only see her and hear her live. But Jules is such a fan that he's desperate to have a recording of her. He doesn't want to wait 2 years for her next performance in town. he sneaks tape equipment into her show and makes a high-quality bootleg of it for his own use. The following day, he happens to be near a badly wounded woman fleeing from assassins. She slips a tape recording into his bag as she passes him before being killed shortly afterwards. Jules now has two very sought-after tape recordings in his possession. A pair of unscrupulous music bootleggers are aware he has a recording of Cynthia Hawkins singing, want to get hold of that. And gangsters and corrupt cops are after him because the tape that was slipped into his bag is evidence of a criminal conspiracy involving the police and organised crime. So pretty much everyone is now on his tail, so Jules takes refuge among friends and other people he meets in the twilight world around and beneath Paris, and even enters into a relationship with Cynthia herself. The story follows his various attempts to escape the various people closing in around him, but also gives you a view of this kind of twilight world of Paris that he's hiding in. So my background with the film probably goes back to me getting into French film back in the 80s. I did French at school and had a teacher who would show us French films so we could hear the language being spoken in something like a real setting instead of those kind of very stilted tape recordings he used to get. And also because he really loved French films and wanted us to love them too. So I saw a few different films from that era, fell in love with a lot of French movies, and really liked that 80s style and the Cinéma du Luc movement. I probably saw Luc Besson's Subway first, which was the light and superficial version of this. The cheap criticism of that movement in film at the time was that it was all style over substance, and Subway by Luc Besson probably does deserve that label. But then I saw Diva, and that doesn't deserve that label. In my humble opinion, Diva has loads of substance. But for Benny-X, it was very, very important for that substance to be delivered with style. So that's why I think you get both style and substance here. In any event, it's not the first time that the French cinema establishment has treated a new style of filmmaking with suspicion and hostility. You know, see, for example, how the old guard reacted to the Nouvelle Vague of the 50s and 60s. Now, what I loved about this film was that it was cool and French and set in Paris, which was so stylish and glamorous on film. Not so much when you go there. You don't get the smell when you're watching it on films. But it also made everything look extraordinary in a way that can only exist in films. Everything is heightened. And within that, it focused on characters on the periphery or underbelly of that glamorous world. Shows as a kind of underground, hidden world which is grimy and gritty within that Parisian glamour. So there's plenty of stories and characters in it. It's just Cinéma du Luc tells you about those characters through this vivid visual storytelling, which I absolutely adore. It's got this incredible chase scene through the Paris metro where Jules takes his moped down escalators around corners, on and off trains. The gangsters are after him. It's a terrific, amazing scene, which is up there with any great chase scene in the movies. Overall, the movie, I think, is really compelling. It's stylish all the way through. It's occasionally very funny. It really just... It's like a lot of kind of movies that you might have watched in that kind of vein, but just so stylishly done and in a really cool French way that I just absolutely love. So the disc itself, so this is a bit of a quirky one. This is a Blu-ray that I sourced directly from Amazon France because I found a UK or General Region B version of the Blu-ray really hard to get hold of. So it's a French edition. It's pretty no frills, just a single disc containing just the film. There might be a trailer or something in there, but very sort of basic, which is fine by me. I just wanted the film. If you're going to get some other version of it, it can be very expensive. I think if you're in America or another region, maybe you can get something sort of, you know, closer to your needs. But this was all I could get. There's one problem with that, is that there are no English subtitles. This was entirely for the French market, so the only available options are to have it in the French language with French subtitles. So if you can speak French and maybe follow the subtitles, you're okay. Not ideal for most English-speaking people who want to watch a French film. I have to admit that up front. I speak quite good French, and it's not exactly laden with dialogue. It's a very visual film, but there were times when I needed to pause the film and look up words, especially because it uses a lot of street slang for various criminal names for things. And it turns out my school French didn't cover the urban slang for sex workers and being stabbed, funnily enough. There is talk of a restored 4K Blu-ray coming out, which I will be on the lookout for, but it's hard to make any guarantees that I'm going to get that, because a lot of these discs get scooped up by scalpers and sold for ridiculous sums on eBay. I hope I get hold of that version, but for now, this is all I've got. So I'm going to talk about this film because anyone else like me who wants a reasonably affordable version of Diva now, this might be all you can get, or an equivalent for your region. So let's talk about the video. The film is beautiful because Ben Eakes made it beautiful. He went to a lot of trouble to get the settings, the stylish apartments, the opera houses, even the dirty Paris metro to just look just impossibly, amazingly, cinematically cool and beautiful. It's beautifully lit with lots of neon and shadow and style. So it is beautiful. I would say that this isn't like a full-on remaster. It's good. It's a faithful representation of the original image. Someone could probably do something which pops a little bit more than that, but it is great. It was shot in 35mm with Panavision cameras, so you do get a good-looking film. In particular, the characters are lovingly lit and filmed. Ben Eakes is really good at just, in the way that cinema does, fetishizing and glamorizing this central character that you just can't get enough of. Wilhelmina Fernandez in particular looks absolutely luminous. Anlou looks amazing as well. I will say that these French cinema de luxe directors do sort of make a specialist subject of making their female characters look particularly amazing. But you find the other guys compelling. Richard Boehringer is this kind of stylish philosopher guy who helps Jules. Jules is kind of a nerdy looking character, but he's still French and cool and young in Paris in the 80s. So it's all very well done. But in particular, the actresses and models look like, they look like a fashion photographer's done like one of those photo shoots with, the nth degree of lighting and angles and all the camera tricks. Everything in this film is made to look absolutely amazing. It's not perfect. There's visible grain, which I don't mind. I do prefer a bit of grain, but the original film negative has been, if not remastered and restored, handled with care. And the original source, like I say, is so goddamn beautiful that it still works. It seems to me there was a lot of use of the colour blue, lots of Paris by night, which is all fabulous as far as I'm concerned. So a very, very good visual image of a very, very good visual film. As for the sound, it's DTS, it's a Master 2.0, so stereo is what I'm reading off the back of the case. Now this is where the disc really comes into its own, because it may not be 5.1 or Atmos, but it's a really good DTS sound reproduction. It's taken really great care with the original audio. Now, this isn't the biggest challenge for your system in terms of surround sound. I always reference, Apocalypse Now with the helicopters coming in from all angles. But we do have car chases, a couple of explosions, a lot of atmospheric sound to the whole film, which has to envelop you and add to the beauty of the image. And this sound is really good. Blu-ray sound generally is very good, especially if you've got decent speakers attached to your TV. And the real star of the sound is obviously the music. The score is incredible. The opera singing of Fernandez is absolutely beautifully captured. If you're a real sort of opera aficionado, you may notice that her singing is featured in a Ridley Scott film called Someone to Watch Over Me. I'm the kind of nerd who knows that but wouldn't recognise her singing otherwise. And the score's really cleverly done. It moves from symphonic to electronic to operatic and back. Absolutely pin sharp, no complaints. The sound is absolutely terrific. Can't get enough of it. And it really does need that good sound to add to the atmosphere. There are great moments which are, look, there's lots of chases and all of that kind of thing to keep you going. It is a thriller, but there are also moments of like mood and atmosphere, and everything has to work. So the sound has to work with the image, and they do a really nice job here. Overall, as far as I'm concerned, this film is the epitome of French cool. Now, maybe that's my generation. We grow up assuming that France and certainly Paris was the epitome of cool. But for me, this film works the way something like A Bout de Souffle or Le Samurai would have been for film nerds in the 60s. Like I say, if you ask me, it's style and substance. You don't base a book on a novel with all the storylines and characters and just have like a few beautiful kind of moments. I'm not trying to slag off Subway, because although I'm not the biggest fan of Luc Besson personally, the way he films Christophe Lambert and Isabella Gianni in Subway and makes Paris look really beautiful in that film is great. There are other practitioners of the art, but Ben Eakes and Diva are the original and best, and you really need this. If you love French film, if you love cinema de luxe, then you have to have Diva. It's great, and this is a terrific film. It's a decent disc. Is it an essential purchase? Well, kind of. Like I said, there is a remaster on the way. Maybe when the 4K comes out, there'll be a decent Blu-ray that you can get as well. I am hoping that the real film fans will be able to get hold of a copy of this without having to line the pockets of some greedy, profiteering bastard on eBay. If you can't and you don't mind doing some homework with the French language, then you do have the option of this disc, and it is a wonderful film experience. Frankly, I'm not sure if you need to understand everything that's being said in the dialogue anyway. Just watch the movie, you get the feeling. Film is a visual medium. So, yeah, it was a certainly essential purchase for me, although it's not the last time I'm going to buy a copy of Diva, I think, because I am going to look out for that 4K version. But this is a really, really important film to have on your shelf in some format or other. So do look out for it. Do go and get it. Diva is a great film, truly great film. So that's Diva. That's what I thought of it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this review has helped you make your mind up about whether to buy it or made you check this film out if you haven't heard of it before. Once again, if you enjoyed this show, please do check out Double Reel, and ways to find the podcast on our socials will be on the screen in a moment. And whatever else, I hope to see you next time for more physical media chat right here on Maximum Disc. The Maximum Disc YouTube channel is brought to you by Double Reel, the monthly magazine podcast for the discerning film nerd. If you like our celebration of physical media, please check out the podcast for more chat about the films we love and hate.